I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, show off your pride.
Happy Pride, San Diego!
On display now, a colorful symbol of hope and equality, the annual LGBT celebration, and how much money it's making for San Diego.
San Diego Unified School District will establish a climate action plan for 100% sustainable energy. I'm Peggy Pico. How school campuses and curriculum could change. Plus, whatever happened to San Diego's promising indie music scene? A new documentary looks at why the 90s next big thing never happened in San Diego.
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc?
I need fuel.
The exhaust smells like berries.
Letting it rip on the racetrack, the fuel of the future, powered by old berries. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. The vision, a world free of prejudice and bias, the dream, continues today as San Diego kicks off Pride Weekend. For the first time, a giant rainbow flag was unfurled at the State Building downtown. Organizers are expecting record crowds less than a month after the Supreme Court ruled same-sex unions are now legal in all 50 states. San Diego Pride organizers say the economic impact goes well beyond the city.
It's a much bigger draw. We're a big destination city, so San Diego Pride works with regional and international pride organizations as well. We have people that fly in from all over the world.
About 100,000 people attended the parade last year, with 19,000 coming from outside the county. San Diego Pride has pumped more than $10 million into the local economy. Burning cars are blocking a critical artery connecting Southern California to Vegas tonight. There is a fast-moving brush fire burning now in the Cajon Pass in Hesperia. The fire jumped over the freeway, igniting several cars on fire. It's not clear if anyone is hurt. So far, at least 500 acres have burned. There are some reports of evacuations in the area. The fire broke out this afternoon along Interstate 15. Still growing, California DMV has issued 300,000 driver's licenses to people living in the country illegally. Those numbers represent more than half of all driver's licenses distributed during the first half of this year alone, with a total of more than 700,000. Applicants must prove their identity, residency, and pass all the tests, including the behind-the-wheel exam. Another snapshot on the state of jobs today. There was a slight uptick for the unemployment rate in San Diego County. The latest report shows it edged up to 5% last month. Now, the state's unemployment rate took a tumble. It dropped to 6.3% in June after seeing a slight increase in May. Nearly 23,000 jobs were added last month. State experts say the numbers show growth in both the labor force and folks finding work. Every summer at this time, homeless veterans and their families gather for a 3-day outreach event called Stand Down. Veterans Village of San Diego has been putting on the event for 28 years now. The athletic field at San Diego High School downtown has been transformed into a giant temporary MASH unit where homeless veterans can securely house their personal possessions, from carts and backpacks, even shelter for some of their most precious cargo.
Currently we have 7 cats and 13 dogs in our care, as well as 2 pigeons. We're expecting 60 animals over the course of the weekend.
The number of Stand Down participants has actually fallen over the last couple of years, hovering around 1,000. This year, more than 600 pre-registered for this 3-day event.
I just enrolled for a 28-day inpatient for a post-traumatic stress disorder program they got going, so I'm going to check that out and get all the tools I need on my belt to get back into the workforce, back into the community. Start living, start being who I'm supposed to be.
San Diego County has the third largest veterans population in the country. This year's annual homeless count rose nearly 6% to almost 1,400 people. While Stand Down provides these vets with counseling, clothing, grooming, medical, and housing services, the need is not going away.
I think we're going to have more families than we've ever had before, and that's very concerning to us.
Bill Landis with Veterans Village of San Diego says he's also worried about future funding for homeless vets, despite the VA's goal to end homelessness by the end of this year.
I mean, that would be terrific. But as long as we have homeless veterans in this community, there's going to be a stand down. There's going to be resources available to help them get off the street, whatever it is that they need. We're going to be here for them.
Stand Down runs through Sunday on the athletic field of San Diego High School. A wealthy Mexican businessman was back today in San Diego, in a San Diego courtroom, trying to get a federal indictment dismissed. KPBS reporter Jean Guerrero was at the courtroom and brings us this report.
Jose Susumo Asano Matsura is charged with funneling about $500,000 into San Diego political campaigns. Because he's a Mexican national, such donations are illegal. But in court today, Asano's lawyer argued the law shouldn't apply here because Asano is not just any Mexican national. His wife is a U.S. citizen, he has 2 houses in Coronado, and he pays taxes here. But the judge said the bottom line is that Asano is not a citizen. He rejected the motion to dismiss charges, along with several other motions. There were 2 other defendants in court today, Ravneet Singh, who owns an internet campaign services company, and Marco Polo Cortez, who's a lobbyist. They're accused of helping funnel Asano's money into campaigns for District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, former Mayor Bob Filner, and Congressman Juan Vargas. None of them have been accused of wrongdoing. You can find our reporting on this case online at kpbs.org/dirtymoney. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
New calls to take care of the earth from the state capitol. Governor Brown heads to the Vatican City to be exact, next week to attend Pope Francis's symposium on climate change. The state Senate voted yesterday on a resolution to support the pontiff on his belief that climate change is a moral issue. He released a major letter on the environment calling for world leaders to do more. Some senators called the resolution hypocritical.
We have to move aggressively and forcefully with climate change policies that can only happen in state legislative bodies in nation states throughout the world.
They're citing the Pope on this issue, but they ignore the Pope on moral issues like abortion and family values and other items.
The governor will deliver a copy of that resolution to the conference next week. Tackling climate change, the city of San Diego is doing it now. San Diego Unified is working on a game plan of its own. Peggy Pico has the details.
San Diego Unified is the second largest school district in California with more than 200 schools and 132,000 students. This week, the school board voted unanimously to develop a district-wide sustainable energy plan. Joining me with what's in store are school board trustee Kevin Beiser and Nicole Kapritz, executive director of the Climate Action Campaign. And Kevin, how are local schools being affected by climate change?
Well, the implications of climate change are profound on our students. So because we want to make sure that they grow up in a world where the air is still fresh to breathe and the water is still clean to drink. And so we're working collaboratively with a lot of our partners, our PTA and environmental organizations like climateactioncampaign.org to try to move this forward and help educate our children and to make a difference in San Diego Unified.
What are some specific goals that the district wants to achieve with this plan?
Well, primarily the goal was to achieve 100% energy sustainability by 2035, similar to the San Diego City's Climate Action Plan.
And Nicole, you actually helped craft the San Diego Climate Plan here, Action Plan in the city. So how do the two plans compare?
Well, the city's just embarking on their process to develop their climate plan, but I think it's really exciting and optimistic to know that they are headed in the same direction of getting to 100% clean energy and zero waste and moving forward with alternative transportation options.
So alternative transportation, sustainable energy, how much is this going to cost to implement? Do you know yet?
Well, again, they're just at the beginning of their process, but I think what really needs to be evaluated is what is the cost of not taking action? Because as Mr. Beiser said, we are confronting one of the greatest challenges in human history, climate change. And so it's kind of our obligation to make sure we're protecting kids' future.
Now, Kevin,
actually,
go ahead.
We actually have found in the school district that investing in solar panels saves the school district money on our millions of dollars on our energy bill. So actually, what we're looking at is a way to save money in the school district budget so that we can spend that money on kids in the classroom.
And that was my next question to you. You've taken some steps already. So tell us a few more steps. You've got some solar panels, at least at Adams Elementary, right?
Correct.
And what else are you doing?
Well, we actually have solar panels comprehensively throughout the school district, and we're expanding that even more in our current bond program. We also ban styrofoam lunch trays. We have Meatless Mondays, which reduces our carbon footprint and replaces those Monday meals with high-protein, plant-based items. We have just entered into a contract with our waste disposal company, EDCO, which sets a goal of zero waste. There are different targets that incrementally improve over time to increase the amount of recycled matter and composted materials that EDCO takes from our school district, as well as other things like replacing all of our diesel buses with biodiesel fuel.
Well, as we were talking about, this is the second largest school district behind LA Unified, right, in California, and the sixth largest water consumer in the city. So what's being done to save water in this historic drought?
Well, that's a great question. We've implemented a lot of actions in the last 5 years since I've got on the board. Now we have a lot of waterless urinals going in, which saves thousands of gallons of water. We've underground gray water tanks like at Scripps Ranch High School, where a lot of that water is being captured underground, and we're using it for irrigation. And we're going forward with more gray water initiatives in the school district.
And Nicole, plant supporters want school districts throughout the state to do exactly this that we're doing here in San Diego and take similar measures. Why is that important for everyone to do it?
Well, I think if we're all sharing a similar vision, then we have a greater opportunity for success because we're working in collaboration and we're cooperating and we're figuring out and sharing information about what are the best practices and what are the best ideas moving forward. So, and obviously it's, above all, most important that we protect our kids' future.
Yeah, and there's going to be some curriculum also involved in this, right? Some curriculum changes?
Correct. Well, we've been working with the PTA, and I really want to thank the PTA president, Celeste Bobek-Zeki. She's been instrumental in helping to advocate for curriculum changes as well as this initiative in San Diego Unified. But there have been historically curriculum guidelines about the environment. And so what we want to do is take those existing curriculum parameters and increase them even more to help children be more aware of how they can make a difference at their school.
All right. Well, keep us updated on this. Kevin Beiser and Nicole Kaptritz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're swimming home today. SeaWorld workers released 3 sea lions injured by that oil spill in Santa Barbara County. The park's rescue team helped them recover. They were among 25 survivors out of the oil-covered marine mammals brought to the park's Animal Rescue Center in May. Many were dehydrated and malnourished. Farmers markets may soon offer free samples of beer, thanks to a bill signed into law by Governor Brown. KPBS Health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the new law will let breweries offer instructional tastings.
Craft breweries can already sell their products at certified farmers markets. The new law will allow them to offer free tastings, too. That's good news for an industry that's one of San Diego's fastest growing. But alcohol prevention advocates have some reservations about it. They're concerned about alcohol creeping into community events. Supporters say the law has numerous safeguards. For example, the tasting areas will be cordoned off and restricted to adults. Free samples would be limited to 8 ounces per person. The operators of farmers markets will have the final say about whether or not to allow beer tastings. The law takes effect next year. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
They call it beautiful eye candy. Scientists who can't stop gushing over Pluto can't get enough of these new photos from the New Horizons spacecraft. They reveal vast frozen plains next door to Pluto's rugged mountains of water ice. Spanning a couple of 100 miles, the plains are located in the bright, heart-shaped area of the dwarf planet. Scientists think the plains may be about 100 million years old. Motorsports aren't usually thought of as an environmentally friendly. EarthFix reporter Cassandra Profita shows us the fuel of the future that is changing all the action on the speedway.
Remember that last scene in Back to the Future?
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc?
I need fuel.
Back in 1985, using food waste for fuel seemed about as far off as flying cars. But now, it's reality. Welcome to the future. Matt Kaufman is a professional Formula Drift driver.
Drifting is the ballet of motorsports. It's not racing. It's dancing.
In a drift competition, two cars squeal around tight turns, one following the other and trying to match its precision. Each contest is an intense 30 to 45 seconds.
It's the tire smoke, it's the cars going sideways at close to 100 miles an hour, it's the sound of the tires, it's the sound of the engines.
Motorsports aren't usually thought of as environmentally friendly, but Kaufman's team is breaking that stereotype. This year, they switched to a new fuel to offset their carbon footprint. Now, Kaufman's car, like the DeLorean in Back to the Future, runs on food waste.
People are just all around surprised to hear that we are running a race car off of food-based products. It's just unheard of.
Kaufman says the ethanol, called Thunderbolt race fuel, actually runs his car better than petroleum-based racing fuel.
But with this fuel, it is 100% consistent all the time. It's amazing.
The fumes are also less toxic for him to breathe. And there's another unexpected benefit.
The exhaust smells like berries.
You heard that right. The exhaust smells like berries. That's because the ethanol comes from a company in Cornelius, Oregon that makes dried fruit. Mark Smith is the owner of Summit Foods, the company that makes the fuel. He says the idea was born out of a problem. The process of drying fruit meant lots of sugary waste juice.
We just kept talking about what do we do with this waste. Landfill didn't want it, and the sewer, it was very, very expensive to, so we just kept storing and storing it.
Then they started fermenting the juice and distilling it into very pure alcohol, or ethanol.
We'd like to, at some point, do millions of gallons a year of waste stream ethanol, and we'll just keep working on it till we get it.
Kaufman says it's only a matter of time before food waste ethanol goes beyond the racetrack.
If the Thunderbolt all-natural, eco-friendly fuel is not only better than the other racing fuels, it would be by far better than the low-quality fuels that Americans are served every single day into their domestic cars.
In fact, Kaufman says it just might be the fuel of the future.
That was Cassandra Profita of EarthFix, an environmental reporting project made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The noise over the Chargers Stadium is getting louder, but the mayor's race is strangely quiet. Money and prestige are at stake in the battle between UCSD and USC. And why did the small city of Chula Vista divide itself into 4 districts? I'm Mark Sauer. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
Padre Blue and White is up and ready to go for the 2016 Petco Park All-Star Game. This is the new logo showing off San Diego's team colors. Still a year away, the Midsummer Classic set for July 12th will be the 3rd All-Star Game played in San Diego and the first at Petco Park. A legal victory for college athletes tonight, challenging the use of their names and images in video games. A federal judge signed off on a $60 million settlement as part of a class action lawsuit against the NCAA and video game maker Electronic Arts. Players who have appeared in these video games have until July 31st to make a claim. The video games were discontinued in 2013 because of the pending legal cases. NCAA will appeal the ruling. A new documentary celebrates and questions what happened to San Diego's music scene since the early 1990s. Earlier, Peggy Pico talked with the film's producer and a local musician about music then and now.
In the new movie called It's Gonna Blow, you see and hear a slice of local indie music from the late 80s and early 90s. But San Diego's promising indie music explosion fizzled. Here with some possible reasons why are my guests, San Diego musician Rob Crow with the band Pinback and filmmaker Bill Perrine. And Bill, the title of this film, It's Gonna Blow, is provocative. What does it mean?
It means a few things. It comes from a line in a song called Aroma of Gina Arnold by a band called Truman's Water. And it's about the idea, it's your plastic culture sucks and it's gonna blow. It's about the idea of blowing up the old order and starting anew with something different, something fresh. So that's the first meaning, but it's referring to the idea that in the early 90s people were saying San Diego was going to be the next Seattle, like the next alternative hotspot, and the town was going to blow up and become huge.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that meaning as well.
All right, and we're going to come back to that, but first I want to get to a clip from your film where Mitch Wilson of the band No Knife talks about music in San Diego in the 80s and 90s.
Think of San Diego, they think of sunshine and, beaches, whatever. I don't know what they think of. San Diego is very, very different for me. I think of like all the punk rock kids and all these, all these dark, weird bands and music.
Now, Rob, how would you describe San Diego's music scene during the early 90s?
Well, at its best, I would say it's like a varied group of weirdos trying to do their best to make the most creative and individualist music that they could, Everybody had a great time going to each other's shows, but doing things that were intense but different from each other, really making an effort to be creative in new ways.
Did you and other musicians at that time that you knew, did you buy into the idea that San Diego might be exploding into the next Seattle?
That, with the people that I was hanging out with mostly, it was a non-issue because we were too busy trying to make new things and have fun with each other that, we didn't think our kind of thing would ever really catch on.
All right. Well, Bill, that gets back to the movie then and a few possible reasons why it didn't really catch on in the way that people thought. What are some of those reasons?
Well, I think like Rob said, I don't think most of the musicians thought in that way at all, with a few very notable exceptions, I guess. But it really comes down to how you define like what success is. And I think for most of these bands, they were perfectly successful. The idea that you have to become the next Nirvana or Stone Temple Pilots or whatever, I don't think they thought that way. Making the music they wanted to make was success. And that probably affected their career prospects because they maybe didn't do the things that you have to do to become successful. The games you have to play, the concessions you have to make, the changes that you have to make to your music, your vision, your lifestyle, Do you think San Diego is, I'll ask you this, Rob, do you think San Diego is supportive of kind of nurturing that sort of a huge music scene, or is there just too much going on here?
Well, at the time, I know there was, but it's hard to say how big it was because we thought, 20 people at a show was a crazy amount of people watching you or watching what was going on. But everybody spent a lot of time being supportive at the time, and it was only when a lot of people saw what was going on and thought, and people started to get popular doing what they were just doing anyway, that other people came into town and started to doing those things that we were doing anyway, but trying to put a price tag on it.
Right. Trying to make it a little more than
weird.
It made it weird.
Yeah.
I see. Well, let's talk about what's going on now at the Che Cafe at UC San Diego's campus. It's still occupied, and even though there's been repeated attempts to shut it down, how does this venue fit into San Diego's music history and the underground music scene here?
Well, I'll keep it brief because I think Rob has a better insight into that than I ever could. But it's integral. It's huge. I mean, it's the incubator for a lot of these bands. It's not only just as a place where you can go and kind of do interesting, weird things, but the ethics behind the place, the ethos, all of that, I think, I don't know if a lot of these bands would have really happened without it. It's huge.
And what do you think, Rob?
For me, that was a place that I could go as soon as I was old enough to be able to get to a show. That's what I wanted to do. I'd go there every weekend, not knowing who was going to play, and every weekend I'd see at least one thing that was amazing, if not, 5 things that were amazing. And it was always a place, and is a place, where anybody could go and feel safe. And there's a support system of people that aren't going to let horrible things happen to you, where everyone is welcome.
Oh. All right, we're going to have to end on that. Rob Crow and Bill Perrine, whose documentary, It's Gonna Blow, is actually available on DVD right
That's
now.
right.
All right, well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Slipping and sliding. Baby otters are the LA Zoo's newest residents, melting hearts from the first photos and videos you see here. 2 males and 1 female born last March at a new state-of-the-art habitat specially designed to help endangered species reproduce. Zoo experts say in captivity, giant otters have a high infant mortality rate. First, they reclaimed an old strip mall on El Cajon Boulevard. Now young business owners are reclaiming Utah Street in San Diego's North Park. The monthly Boulevard Market is taking over the street with food and cocktails tonight. The market has signaled a rebirth on El Cajon Boulevard. It also operates as an incubator for businesses.
We are trying to find a permanent location, but that is because of small market venues like the farmers markets and the El Cajon Boulevard Market, which is just wonderful for the small business owner.
The Boulevard Market takes over Utah Street every 3rd Friday through December. Organizers hope to start a similar market in City Heights. Thunderstorms and strong rip currents may develop along the coast as remnants of Hurricane Dolores moves onshore, or rather offshore, from Baja California. We do have a beach hazard up. It goes into effect tonight. We're looking at temperatures in the 80s and 70s over the next few days along the coast, 90s and 80s for the inland valleys, and mostly in the 80s for the mountains, 90s and some triple digits for the desert over the next few days. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great weekend.